Hani and his wretched wife, a young religious seeker heard of the sheikh who could bestow peace upon a conflicted mind with a single glance. He set off in a journey to the mountains where the sheikh was believed to live. And when he arrived at the sheikh's house and knocked on the door, the teacher's wife stuck her head out of the second-floor window and screamed, "What do you want?" "To see the great holy teacher," the seeker replied. The sheikh's wife let loose with a barrage of insults, recriminations, accusations, calling the sheikh a parasite, a fraud, and the young man a fool. But the young man was undeterred. Her angry words could not stop his quest for wisdom. He learned from others in the village that the sheikh was out in the forest collecting firewood. Then when he arrived there, the teacher suddenly appeared riding on a lion. Now he had the power, this teacher, not only to tame and quiet the wildest of beasts, but he could also read the unspoken question in the mind of the young man about why such a wise teacher would stay with such an abusive wife. The sheikh immediately answered his unspoken question. He said he had not chosen his wife and he did not desire her company. He was committed to her for reasons of his own. It is not her perfume or bright-colored clothes. Enduring her public disdain has made me strong and patient. She is my practice. Barbara goes on to say, in this story, Rumi suggests a whole new way of looking at what is troublesome, difficult, demanding. This is my practice. Could be a specific person or even your own grumpy, stubborn, self-centered personality. Could be your health, your financial circumstances, your family of origin, or any number of troubles. Adversity, she says, may create an enormous amount of grief and sadness. And yet through it, we may have the opportunity to become stronger and more patient. In the presence of adversity, we're constantly forced to remember our center, our source of ultimate strength, that which is most real. Adversity comes to us all. We all suffer loss. A parent dies, a partner, a child, a friend. We lose a job, an opportunity. We have to make do on less than we really need for our families. We suffer a health crisis, an accident, ill fortune, unjust anger turned against us. And if we regard ourselves as singled out, punished by the powers that be, or particularly unfortunate, we can become resentful, angry, depressed. We don't like it when things go wrong. We don't like it when things don't go our way, when we don't get what we wish for, or when we encounter what we dearly wish to avoid. It's here that spiritual practice saves us from regarding ourselves as victims, powerless in the face of fate, defined as a person by our failure, our loss, punished by the powers that be, or especially unfortunate. Thich Nhat Hanh commends a simple practice of breathing in, breathing out, pushing aside the stray thoughts that come to us and patiently starting over and over again, taking the time to stand back from the circumstances we encounter, whether for good or ill, withdrawing for a little from the world, from adversity, from the whirl of activity that is everydayness for us, as well as the whirl of our monkey mind, our brain. Breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Words were written by Sarah Dan Jones. They're in our teal hymnal, number 1009, and I'm sure you've sung it a number of times, and Frank has helped us to bring it into our heads for the whole service. Thank you. She wrote these words in the wake of the horror of the 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center. Now, for the last 12 months, as of this coming Friday, we've been witnessing the horror of a war taking us back almost, it seems, to the outbreak of World War II. We're not yet clear of this never-ending 3-year-old pandemic that so far has killed 1,128,000 of our citizens and almost 7 million citizens of the world. When the horror comes, breathe in, breathe out. Of course, our lives don't only consist of adversity, catastrophes, loss. We have times of wonder, of joy, times of happiness. And when the tide turns in our favor, we want to hang on to it. We come to believe that those moments should be what we have all of our lives, like our happiness is our due. And when those good feelings begin to ebb a little, we're disappointed, all out of proportion to the change. We long for that peak of joy. We think that we can't bear it slipping from our fingers. And even if our lives return back to normal, we still feel disappointed, cheated of the wonderful moments that ought to grace our lives at every moment. Those of you who've had experience with bipolar disorder, whether personally or with those you know or love, you know that the manic phase is exciting, creative, powerful, but inevitably there will be a crash, a depression as pronounced as its opposite and often deeper and longer lasting. It's almost as though the high creates the low that follows. Anybody who's experienced stimulating drugs, whether legal or illegal, knows this experience. For example, if you've ever used prednisone, you probably remember an initial experience of great energy. My wife found herself cleaning the house thoroughly and joyfully, but a little obsessively. And then, a few days later, the letdown, the exhaustion that follows great exertion. If you've been in love, you know that there is an ebb and flow in our relationships. The honeymoon always ends. The perfect partner becomes all too human again after the bloom of romance begins to fade. Of course, that's when the hard work of relationships begins. After the glow of first love comes the harder work of being loving even when we don't feel like it. Change is constant. As the Greek philosopher Heraclitus put it, you can't even step into the same river twice. Such is the nature of our lives and the world around us. The Buddha taught that when we cling to what is right now, when we want happiness to go on forever and misery to end at once, we suffer. Suffering is kind of an imperfect translation of the Buddha's term dukkha, which also has elements of disappointment, of loss. When we try to hang on to what is at any given moment, we find that it eludes our grasp, and then disappointment, even depression, sit in. Wise King Solomon, finding himself depressed one day and elated another, consulted all of his advisors to find some wisdom that could serve him in good times and bad. But none of those judged wisest in his kingdom, none of the counselors of state could satisfy his demand. But then a humble goldsmith came forth with a ring on which was engraved, "This too shall pass." A friend from the congregation in Bridgewater once gave me a plaque that she had in her garden. "This too shall pass." But I wish it would pass now. When we breathe in, breathe out, we find that our thoughts can pass in and out as well. We learn to stand back from the ceaseless flow the ebb and flow, the tides of our lives, to let our moods come and go, let our attachments come and go, let suffering come and go, let happiness come and go. We learn to still the clamor of everyday life, to practice silence and peace in a way that overcomes our clinging, grasping, trying to possess. And then we experience a kind of peace, a kind of simplicity in our response to our living. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I was serving my ministerial internship at Arlington Street Church, these 18 years ago now, I joined the Sangha, the community of Buddhists in the congregation, which included our minister, Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey. We ended our time together in a walking meditation through the public gardens, which are just across the street from the church. And there was a particular pleasure in being silent in the midst of all the activity around us, all of the couples wandering, everyone enjoying the space, chattering away, and we could be silent in the midst of all of that activity. And we found sometimes that the moon shone down on the trees and the people and gave us something ineffable, something mysterious, something that drew us away from whatever was happening urgently in our own lives and into a kind of eternity of simple presence. I found the same peace at a 10-day silent meditation retreat a few years ago. That experience of having no conversation except with the teacher, no electronics, no books, no distractions, no pen and paper. I did a lot of mending during that time. That created a kind of peace unlike anything I had experienced before. The heart of Buddhism is practice, the experience of having a different relation with ourselves and with the things and people around us, of actually abstracting ourselves for a time from attachment, from grasping, and so, at least for a few minutes, freeing ourselves from what the Buddha calls dukkha, suffering, attachment, clinging. And when we meditate, we're cultivating a different mode of experiencing ourselves. We're developing the ability to witness ourselves without being bound up with our egos. The monkey mind, the endless chatter in our heads, is an obstacle when we meditate. But in fact, he or she is always working every second of our lives, distracting us from where we are right here, right now, pulling us away from what we have towards what we want, from where we are to where we're going to be, from what we're enjoying now and what we fear will happen later. And the worst experience when you wake up in the middle of the night and the monkey mind takes over and you cannot go back to sleep again. Instead, the practice of meditation allows us to tame that wildness, that endless chattering in our own brains, that wildness within us, to calm ourselves so we can be present right here, right now, enjoying what is, giving thanks for what we're experiencing right now without trying to make it last forever or to rush on to the next thing. Breathe in. Breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. The Metta Sutta is a compilation of the teachings of Buddha as handed down to his disciple. Metta means loving kindness, and the meditation invites us to experience loving kindness and then to spread it around us. It starts with me and my condition, tossed about, distracted, subjected to constant and distressing change, whether for better or for worse, or happy, unsatisfied, afraid it'll pass too quickly. Here's how one translation, which we used this morning, takes it. May I be free of danger. May I have mental happiness. May I have physical happiness. May I have ease of well-being. First, I offer peace and happiness and ease of well-being to myself. After all, if I can't love myself, what would it mean to love my neighbor as myself? And then as I become more comfortable in my own skin, my circle of concern expands beyond me to the one next to me, to you. You, a partner, a child, a neighbor, a friend, the person sitting next to you in the pew. We then expand the circle even more after we say, may you be free of danger, have mental and physical happiness and ease of well-being. And then we expand farther, even to those who are not present, to they who also need compassion and kindness. They are relatives, they, the clerks in stores, they, the people we distrust or dislike, like the sheikh. It's sometimes useful to have someone you don't like that you can wish well-being to. May they be free of danger, have mental, physical happiness and ease of well-being. And finally, we expand our concern to all beings, expanding the breadth of our imagination to imagine the whole earth, our Mother Earth, teeming with life. May all beings everywhere, known and unknown, near and far, be safe, happy, peaceful, and at ease. So in this way, we move beyond the preoccupation with ourselves, storm-tossed as we are sometimes, and come to experience ourselves as being part of the whole, at one with all beings. Breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Hopefully we've gotten that into our heads by now. There are parts to this, 3 parts actually. The choir did that at the beginning of the service. There's one more part which I was trying to fill in. It's called the drone. That's the part that says, breathe in, breathe out. And I love it because there are many people in this world who feel they can't sing a tune. And maybe they can't, who knows. But breathe in, breathe out is not a tune. It's just breathe in, breathe out. So if you are challenged in having a tune, join the drone. If you remember parts, let's join in doing the parts. We're just going to do this a cappella. When I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. One more time. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. May it be so, and amen.